Okay guys, welcome back to this van conversion. Today what we're going to be doing is attempting to clad this problem. And by this problem I mean this sliding door. Because have a look at it. There's no straight lines, there's all kinks and curves and holes, and down here there's insulation poking out and wires, and I don't even know what this thing is. A window. Honestly, the only straight lines are the ones that we've created, and even those there's only one right angle, which is that one there. Okay, you were a right angle. It's a right angle at the front. It's not a right angle at the back. You get the picture. It's a problem.
There aren't actually that many examples like online of people actually doing this. Like most people, I guess, I've seen tongue and groove, you know, kind of go slats horizontally.
Yeah.
I've seen trying to do full panels. I've seen trying to restore the original van panels on there. We've been scratching our head as to what to do, and we're not 100% sure right now what's going to happen. So if we were to go sort of tongue and groove or horizontal slats, I don't particularly want any sort of, I don't want lines to show.
No.
Because we have some ideas about the rest of the walls in the van.
What happens if we were to do a full panel?
The full panel will not be a full panel. The full panel will still be split into
Pieces.
Into 3 or 4 pieces. So I imagine so.
So a full panel won't work because it would be, well,
I feel like it's too much patchwork. It is a lot of patchwork. Like as soon as you get down here as well, it's like it sort of breaks down. Like this is easy, and then as you go further down, it becomes more problematic.
What happens if you do verticals?
I was thinking that verticals might be an idea. Now,
Again,
I still don't want the gaps showing. Right then, so after some overnight thinking, we have decided to definitely go with the vertical option. We decided to go with a full panel up here. We did try the vertical slats scenario. Alright, so what we're going to go with is we're going to use these 20cm panels to clad all the way along. Wood screws down here attached to the plywood frame, and then metal screws up here. Because the plywood we've chosen is very soft, is softwood poplar ply, it's very good contouring what's behind it. So because we have the insulation gap right here, technically we have a blank void of fluffiness behind here. So technically when you press this in, there's nothing solid behind it to give any support. And because the plywood is so soft, when the slats were individually positioned, there was no bracing where the slats met, which meant that when you pressed in on a singular slat, that slat would bend inwards and the other ones will not. And that's a bit of a problem because we were planning to put sealant between them and paint them, and that will definitely crack the paint and the sealant and everything else, so that wasn't feasible. So the full panel is a lot better. There is proper tension. We did put some framing behind where the insulation is, just so when you press this in a little bit, it has just something to lean against, so it's not so, you know, floaty. So let's move on to the rest of the panel. So just to give you a bigger overview of what we're dealing with. Right there, locking mechanisms galore. I can't even draw you exactly how they're positioned, but I know that's full. So I wouldn't risk putting any screws in there. Then you have these cables running all the way down. There's even the second one like behind the insulation. So for us, we would really rather not risk drilling through that whole mess of wires if we can avoid it. And luckily, you see these holes here? That one, there, going all the way around the pyramid. There's even on the bottom as well. We're gonna use our riv nuts. And then by using the riv nuts, that becomes a removable panel. We don't even need to use screws, we'll just use the bolts we have. This is just some anti-rust primer. And this is our ingenious method to attempt to do the bottom ones, which was surprisingly successful.
There we go. There we go. So now what we have to do is cut the corresponding holes in that ply. 7mm hole for an M6 bolt. Plenty of wiggle room.
Close the door and see whether that bolt at the bottom interferes.
How
Close. Very close. That is literally, I can fit a nail in there. Because we're making this panel chalkboard black, the main reason for that is because this panel gets dirty quite easily. This is the main traffic, it gets bumped, hit and things like that. So we thought, well, let's just make it a dark color. The rest of the door is going to be white. So the panel just fits within these lines here. So there's going to be some metal that would theoretically be visible. What we're going to test is the metal that surrounds the perimeter of this bottom panel. We're going to try and paint chalkboard black. So I have first scuffed the edge here so we have better stick to the paint and a bit of masking tape. Let's do the open door test.
There you go. Any catching on the rubber?
No.
So if I push the door open, we're good.
It goes straight out, so we don't have to deal with that diagonal tilt.
Yeah.
The pliers already outside the rubber, basically.
Okay.
Alright.
Excellent.
Can we just close the door now? I will call that a success. Alright. So, let us explain. Well, it's not that complicated. In the event that we wish to use this lock, we just needed access for it, so...
Get a little hole.
And then you just unlock it using that. Yeah, so, I was thinking we can stylize the inside. I mean, it's pretty dark in there anyway, but I was thinking what we can do is have some scrap pieces of 4-way stretch fabric. And I was just thinking to line the inside here. Nothing overly fancy. We'll just sort of tuck it in and
stick it down.
Okay, so we're about ready to put this one on. Because this is the lower segment of the cladding, we're starting to encounter more of the wires, the plastic boxes and stuff like that. Now, as far as we are aware, here, up to about this line, this is an empty cavity, so we can drill normally here. However, when we approach this segment, we're not 100% sure exactly where the plastic and wires and things start, but we definitely know that they're here, especially since this contraption is here. It obviously is the locking mechanism. So for this section, we will not use any screws in the metal work. We're still going to use screws obviously in the wood, because that's fine, but here we're going to use glazing sealant.
So we've done the 3 sides that are the easier ones, and now we come to this side where the handle is, which is probably the most tricky one. So we've got the maximum size of the piece that we'll need. So essentially this is going to go and kind of do that. However, we cannot cover up our handle. We need to cut this piece to contour around the window frame here. And then we need to figure out a way of cutting it around this door handle so that A, we're still able to reach the door handle, B, we want to be able to cover this up, and C, if we ever need to replace this black bit of the door handle, we still want to be able to reach it.
There you go, we've measured the section out on paper, and we're going to basically try and get the shape. I don't know, just gonna take it one step at a time and keep dry fitting it. Bloop.
There you go.
And that is how one opens their door.
So you got that little handle notch.
Yeah, so you can actually put your thumb around it.
Yeah.
Right then, so the final piece of the puzzle. Like we did on this side, right here, we're not going to drill any holes. We're not going to try and screw anything. We're just going to use our glazing sealant to stick that on. And the majority of screws are going to be wood screws along this perimeter and just up here. So we've sanded, and now we're gonna prime the surface for painting. So generally you should prime surfaces before painting, especially if they're rather porous like ply, but also the doors and external sort of outdoor feature is gonna be opened and closed, so moisture is expected to land on it relatively frequently. So priming is a good idea.
And hope we don't get any primer on any metal.
Well, honestly, on the metal, it's fine. It's gonna be covered eventually. This is the stage where if we mess up something else around here, it's probably gonna be fine because it's gonna be covered. Right now, it's sort of like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Splash my walls. Why not? I write notes on them anyway. Good. We added a few more screws over there, but they're going to be covered by the trim, which, since we have some time, we're going to be putting on the trim on the window this video, because why not finish off the door properly now?
It's only Friday.
It's only Friday, yeah. So for the trim, I've got some CLS timber, some pine here, and I've already spent some time shaping them. So let's see how well they fit, shall we? So we're going to be sticking the trim on with sealant, just because we want it nice and smooth. We don't want any nails or screws or any hardware. We don't want that to be visible. Hence I'm just scuffing up the area where the sealant's going to go. So we've put some glazing sealant on here, because it's the toughest grip we have. And now we
arrange and stick. Have you got your little cork measurer?
No, I was looking for it.
Here.
Alright.
After I've pressed it, we need to make sure that both sides still line up.
So I'm just doing a margin line to know exactly where the sealant should not go. Now one should pick the right way for this. It's like in sippy out of the van. So only one or two of the joints actually turned out relatively seamless. What seems to be working well is using this, you know, the floor sealant, because it's very, very flexible, and you can sand down the part that obviously goes on the actual wood, and basically we'll just fill the gap. Wait for it to dry a little bit, and then we'll sand. The door has been cladded. I am really pleased with it. The wood really makes it a bit more homely and warm. I mean, really, based on the jigsaw puzzle that the whole window frame and cladding has been, I'm really pleased with it. You know, it could have been an absolute disaster. There's only one thing that didn't really work out, and that is the tricks with the seams on the cladding that we did. As you can see, you can still see where the joint is, and there is obviously still some micro movement in that because there's a teeny tiny crack there. Right here is what it was supposed to look like. Over there, it has worked. This one is the biggest one, the one that's the most present. I was thinking, if we could stylize it so we hide the lines, what we could do. So, if you did catch the live stream last weekend, you would have seen we have a bunch of these fake ivy. So, you know, I thought, well, green's gonna go with that, don't you think? I think we're looking pretty good. You know, honestly, if we forget something here, this little barrier is gonna stop the immediate collapse of everything on the windowsill. So I quite like it. It is really neat in comparison to what I was worried is gonna be about halfway through this. Also, for now, the ivy works. I like how it looks. I like how it's sort of seemingly trying to creep out from behind the walls and the frame. We'll see how long it lasts, because it's just stuck with glue dots and blue tack. And, you know, as the door opens and closes, we'll see how durable it is. But I'm happy with it. And you can still reach. It's a mysterious cave. Ooh, what is it? There's ivy coming out of it. So subscribe for next week. See what we do. I have no plans at the moment. What's happening? Might be the heating. So yeah, come along and we'll see.